We echo the words by Lieutenant Colonel Dan Jennings, leader of the Salvation Army in the Minneapolis area, and the commitment to continue to pray for comfort, strength, and peace on behalf of the family of George Floyd. While they received a favorable verdict, they are still suffering the painful loss of their family member in such a tragic and violent way. As has been expressed, the witnesses on that fateful May 25th, 2020, were a bouquet of community members from all walks of life, backgrounds, ethnicities, gender, and age. Without even knowing George Floyd, they knew that this treatment of another human being was undeniably wrong. And I can only pray that I would have been as courageous. Following the guilty verdict, we stand in what can be described as a liminal space of ambiguity while in between experiences. It's a crossing over a space in our mind, in our soul and spirit, where we've left a particular destination and yet haven't fully arrived at another. It's a word that perfectly describes my own mind, heart, and soul space today, between having experienced an act of courageous accountability in Minneapolis and yet being aware that we are at the threshold of a beginning rather than an end, as we attempt to move towards a reality of liberty and justice for all in our land, regardless of the color of one's skin or the language with which they express themselves. Our international position statement on racism declares our foundational commitment that, and I quote, "The Salvation Army denounces racism in all forms. Racism is fundamentally incompatible with the Christian conviction that all people are made in the image of God and are equal in value. The Salvation Army believes that the world is enriched by a diversity of cultures and ethnicities." This foundational tenet of our Army's DNA has been put to the test in these last days. And herein lies the potential of success or challenge. The death of George Floyd on the streets of Minneapolis at the hands of those in authority has sparked much soul-searching in all of us as to the state of our own heart and mind when it comes to recognizing the evil of racism in ourselves and our surroundings. As we wrestle with this multifaceted manifestations either by omission or commission and its devastating effects on all of us, not the least of which is separation from God's perfect will for all of us as His creation. There is something so nefarious that takes place deep within the soul of man when touched by the destructive power of racism, or even the thought that I might be in any way responsible for promoting, let alone supporting and consenting to any thought, behavior, and/or action that could be remotely perceived as anti-others. The Salvation Army has been on the front lines of the public health crisis and the economic crisis that have ravaged our communities, especially our communities that are disproportionately under-resourced and predominantly underrepresented, due tragically and undisputably to the emphasis of our differences rather than embracing the heart and soul work that joins us together as fellow human beings. Empowered by the Spirit of the living Lord, let us continue the hard work of rooting out the evil of racism within us and reflect the all-inclusive nature of Jesus. May we individually and collectively do better in promoting and institutionalizing diversity, equity, and inclusion from top to bottom, to eradicate racial bias in all of its expressions in ourselves, in our service, and yes, even our communities. I'm reminded of a beautiful Salvation Army prayer chorus that has often been the catalyst in my own life to lean closer and fuller into the heart and mind of Jesus when I've sensed myself perhaps slipping away. My hope is that the words will express our collective prayer and genuine desire as children of the living God during these most difficult days. God in you, God in me, making us all that we can be, created in His image. Let us live in His will. God in you and God in me. May God bless you.